Alrighty, folks. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome along. It's IFTA November 2025 edition. It's me, David Shukri. It's him, Andrew Arnold. Give us a hi, Andrew.
Hello,
How you doing, mate?
all good. How you doing?
Good, good. Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well. Listen, I'm just getting some messages popping up on the screen, folks, asking to admit people in through the lobby. Now, you should all be if you're hearing me now, you will already be in through the lobby, and you won't be having that. But just to let you know, I might get a little distracted because that keeps popping up. Anywho, here we are. We've delayed things a little bit from October due to circumstance beyond our control. Pushed this session to right now, and massive number of attendees we're expecting as always. So thanks for being with us, and thanks for being with us this morning. We've got a super interesting, fascinating session today. A little bit different to what we normally do in some respects. Andrew and I have been out busily delivering and sharing key actions from our 2025 State of the Nation in Australia and in New Zealand. And so that's what we're going to touch on today. A few of the most interesting things out of all of the interesting things that our massive panel of shoppers have told us and asked for in the last 12 months. Here we go again, another waiting in the lobby. Not quite sure what that's happening, but here we go. So that's how we're going to go. Andrew, before we jump into that, a couple of quick comments from you over there on the other side of the ditch. How's life? What's the view overall on the state of the nation for shoppers?
Um, well, life is grand as it always is. I mean,
Good news. Good
I've been
news.
I've been debating about whether or not I actually should be wearing the glasses. So those of you who follow me on LinkedIn, yes, these are now a thing, but I probably don't need them today, so it's all good. But as far as the shop intelligence state of the nation is concerned, delivering it over the last couple of weeks has been a really good experience to get out again and just talk to people face to face, have those conversations about what actually is happening in the marketplace at the moment. And I suppose the interesting thing for me is that generally speaking, the trends that we're seeing from other sources of data in New Zealand are pretty similar to what we're seeing in ours, with a couple of key exceptions. So it was just interesting to see a general alignment there, but as always, there is variations of the theme.
That's good. I like exceptions. I think exceptions are good. I
I
think
think
if
exceptions are brilliant.
if every bit of information said exactly the same thing, then I think it'd be a very boring world, and we wouldn't have anything interesting to do. So, somebody was in the lobby and they came in straight away. Looked like an Imogen. Welcome along, Imogen. Okay, well that's good. That's good. Let's just do a quick check in the chat. Give us a hi, give us a thumbs up. Let us know how you doing. How you getting on this morning? Let's wait for that message to get through. There we go. Thank you very much. Who is that? Who is that? I can't. Melissa. Hello, Lauren. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Who else is there? Where are you? Where are you in the world? How many Kiwis? How many Aussies have we got? How many others do we have? Hello, Amanda. Morning. How are you? I will ask this question again. I asked it last time and got absolutely no response, but I'm still interested to know who is joining us from a room in which there are many, many colleagues. I'm very fascinated to know because we can't get that insight from any other source. So, hello, Sabrina, Sabrina from Sydney. Wonderful. Dion, kangaroo emoji. Love it. Haven't seen that before. Brisbane. What's Michael? Hi from CHCH.
That's Christchurch, David. Christchurch.
I knew as soon as I said it, I knew you were going to tell me what that was.
Nah, you had no idea.
We've got Sales L'Authentique. Wow, that's got to be a room, hasn't it? That's got to be a room. That's not a person. Auckland, fabulous. Melbourne. Did you win anything yesterday, Michelle? Did you take part? What was the winner? Yours, something or other? You must have seen that, Andrew, did you?
No, I actually missed it.
Okay. So whatever you do, folks, don't mention the baseball in front of Andrew. All right, we've got a poll. I'm going to launch a poll, and the first thing we're going to do is going to have a look at, for a bit of context, get involved. Now, if you have seen the State of the Nation already from us, this is just an extra opportunity to get really good value out of that. Obviously, we have delivered it to a bunch of people already. So you may know the answer to this, I'm launching the first one. The first poll is, what was overall shopper satisfaction in AU in the MAT to June this year? So that's the MAT that we're talking about with this data set and these insights. Okay, so I've launched that now. Shall I go ahead and just launch the Kiwi one, the New Zealand one at the same time? I think I will. Why not?
Why not?
Let's go crazy. Let's go nuts with polls. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, so I'm going to close that down. I'm going to see. Can you see it? Is anybody getting that? I'm not seeing anything happening. Let's see. Let's leave it open for a bit. Hello, Natalie. So we're in, as Andrew said, we're in a very interesting time and a very interesting period. While we wait for that, I'm waiting for something to happen on these polls. Forgive me, Teams is a bit funny like this. The answer is going to come up on this page in just a second, so I'll hold off for a bit. We are seeing, and this goes back to your point, Andrew, about trends that we're seeing that are consistent. Something that we've seen in ANZ and shoppers have told us about is something that has happened in, I would say, at stretch, all of the other markets, certainly all the key markets where we do a similar program in Shopper Intelligence around the world. So UK, Ireland, Canada, US, all the markets have seen something similar in terms of the trajectory of shopper satisfaction. So let's have a look. Have we got some results? Yes, we have. All right. So we got overall satisfaction in AU, MAT to June 25, 59% said 62%. That is correct. 62%. And for New Zealand, what have we got? We got 45% of you thought it was 54%. In actual fact, it is, Andrew?
58.
58%. Okay. So what does that all look like? Giving you a bit of context from a global perspective. Here we have those overall shopper satisfaction statistics going back to 2022. Yes, you can all pretty much see where just about all of those markets, with one or two notable exceptions, dipped considerably as we got into that MAT 2023, Q2 2023. And we've been on this gradual improvement and upward slope ever since. I personally, as a Brit, am fascinated by how satisfied British shoppers apparently are in the UK right now, just based on their regular, and I say our normal psychology. But I have been to the UK recently, actually, and seen some really interesting things. There's a big focus there on in-store theatre and in-store experience, which I think is interesting, even at a time when inflation is still very, very high. Or it felt it to me anyway. So that's something that's really worth taking note of. I'm sure a lot of you on the line probably been to the UK or been to Europe. Love to get your views. What do you think about what's going on in the UK right now? If you've just come back, stick it in the chat for us. So 62% Australia, 58% New Zealand. So still bringing up the rear in New Zealand. But the interesting thing, of course, about our program is the breadth across the entire store. So this is now diving into Australia. We'll have a look at this for New Zealand in a minute. And these are the top, or a couple of the top rated categories amongst shoppers right now. So top of the pile, hand dishwashing liquid. Highest satisfaction overall. Number 3, premium crackers in the middle there. And then the 5th highest overall satisfaction category is baby food. Couple of others worth calling out after that. Liquid breakfast scores very highly. Flavored savory snacking biscuits also very high up there. And I'll just build out the next bit, which is the increase year on year. So some big, substantial, significant increases in satisfaction year on year. One thing that we have been pointing out is the correlation, or at least the relationship, between improving shopper satisfaction and decreasing price inflation in food and grocery. That when we saw satisfaction bottom is when we saw price inflation peak, or we would certainly hope so anyway. Even though it hasn't come out completely, and Andrew, you can fill us in a bit more, fill me in a bit more on New Zealand in a moment, we're still seeing levels of food price inflation in Australia, obviously, but it is a much lower level than it was in 23 and early 24. And that inverse relationship exists where we're seeing shoppers increasingly satisfied with what's going on in the grocery stores that they're visiting. So Beautiful thing about this, you can go into store, you can have a look at these. You can look at where what's going on in frozen pizza. Frozen pizza is about number 8, number 9. Block chocolate about number 10. Overall satisfaction. Go in, have a look. This is real stuff. And the beautiful thing as well is we've got this for every single category, which will be the ones you play in, and maybe the ones you want to play in, and maybe even the ones that you think you're competing with for space and for sales. Andrew, this is what yours look like, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you got number one category in terms of satisfaction across all of New Zealand. Not really surprising, red wine. You know, there's a very good history in regards to our production of red wine over here. Well, not saying there isn't in Australia as well, but we tend to be very patriotic about our red wine over here. And then a couple of other categories that you may not necessarily think would be overly exciting or have satisfied shoppers or anything of that nature, really. Liquid breakfast, also portable breakfast included in there, and a simple salad dressings and vinegar category. Now, you will note that the rates of satisfaction increase for these categories is not necessarily as high as what we saw for the Australian ones. And the 3 categories, which are not listed here, but are within the top 10 that actually have had the highest level of increase in satisfaction, are chocolate biscuits. So that's gone up 14 points on prior year. Toilet cleaner, humble toilet cleaner, 12 points on prior year. And frozen fruit, which I'm sure most people would be very shocked to know actually sits within the top 10 categories in terms of highest satisfaction in New Zealand. And that actually grew at 10 points on prior year. So it is, you've heard us say this probably 747 times over the last couple of years we've been doing these webinars. New Zealand and Australia are different markets. And New Zealand and Australia do have different shopper needs, different ways of shopping, different mindsets, different everything. So assuming that the same thing is happening in Australia as it is in New Zealand and vice versa, it's a misnomer. It's not the case. Having said that, there is the same correlation, and this is important, correlation and causation are not the same thing. So let's be very clear about this. There is correlation between the increase in satisfaction and the decrease in inflation in New Zealand as well. So it is interesting to note that, as everyone in New Zealand will have heard in the last week or so, that the latest CPI number came out and it was a little bit higher. So it is going back up in that direction, which is interesting because the satisfaction in New Zealand has not necessarily increased that much over the last sort of 6 to 9 months. It's been relatively flat. So that is a good pointer towards where you can expect to see inflationary pressures because of the correlation, not the causation. You can expect to see a little bit of an increase in inflation to come through based on the fact that our satisfaction is not necessarily growing that fast in New Zealand.
What was your year on year?
Year on year, 4 points.
4 points. Okay, yeah. So, and again, there you go, slight difference. So over here we were +7 year on year, plus 12 if we go a percent over 2 years.
And we were +9 the year before that. So you can see what I mean about it slowing down.
It's more modest. Yeah. I think that's so I'm going to come back to that in a second, because I think that's a good bridge into the importance of price. And we need to touch on that before we get into the next piece. But before I did that, just for context as well, off premise or liquor folks, give us a thumbs up if you're on the line. Don't want to ignore you. Obviously, we've touched on red wine in New Zealand here, but overall satisfaction, brilliant. Thank you, Amanda. We've got one liquor person on the call. Was there? Okay. Anthony, good. Anthony, I haven't seen Anthony for ages. I still haven't, but I've seen your name. I keep getting distracted. Overall satisfaction, off-premise liquor, 70% this year. Okay, so versus 62% in AU grocery. However, the increase was greater, so that's up 10% year on year. We've got a State of the Nation for that as well. If you haven't seen it, you definitely should have done by now, but reach out to your insight manager if you haven't seen it yet. Now, this point about price and inflation, and something that really stuck in my mind from one of the deliveries that I did, Andrew, was how somebody afterwards commented about price, and they perhaps misunderstood or misconstrued the message I was giving about prices and the importance of price. We're not going into this much detail on it today, but I think it's really important to call out in the context of where we're going with this information in a moment. Prices and the importance of price still number one. They're up there with freshness, where it's relevant, and quality. But the really important nuance around this is that, and I'll speak for Australia and let you join in if you're in agreement or disagreement, but in Australia, that level of importance hasn't shifted over the last 3 years. So prices, as in the prices are great, is up there in importance. Nothing beats it on importance. It's up there with quality and freshness, but it is not increased in importance over the last 3 years. Other things have, which I'm going to come on to in a second. I'll just give you the opportunity to build on that. Andrew, same or different?
Same. So actually slightly different, but yeah, it's the same idea. In fact, over the last 3 years in New Zealand, the importance of prices actually decreased, not by a massive amount. It's still, like you said, in Australia, freshness and quality. It's in the same same bucket as those, essentially, in regards to how important it is. But it's actually gone backwards in terms of its level of satisfaction. And just by the way, your screen is not sharing anymore, David.
No.
So is that
Thanks
by design? Just want to check, because we want to know how temperamental teams can be. So the only final point I would make about that before we move on is the simple fact that we know importance of price is always there. It is an important, critical background factor that everybody has to at least tick the box in. But it's about how hard do you go? How hard do you need to go?
Yeah. And this is absolutely fundamentally critical to where you go, whether you're a retailer on this call or whether you're a supplier looking to collaborate and work with a retail partner. If I think about the diverging experiences and performances of Coles and Woolworths right now, that relates very closely to what we're seeing here and the indicators that are coming from shoppers around, yes, price is there. Price has always been there. Price doesn't go away. But there are some other things that I'm seeking to have delivered. This is one of them. And this is where it's more complex than just slap a low price on it or a yellow ticket or advertise a price point in absolute terms. This notion of helping me to find what is good value. Just down the bottom of this slide that I've got up here now, you can see, I probably should have made this bigger font, but the statement that we're asking shoppers to comment on the importance of and the delivery of is there. It's easy to work out what's best value for money in the category and in the retailer. So this is very different to the prices are great. This is what am I getting for the price that I'm paying? And this is what we're seeing increase in importance highest, along with a couple of other measures, which I'll touch on in a minute. As far as the importance of this measure is concerned, I've picked out chocolate bags, which is number 2 ranked for importance of helping me to identify good value in the category. Organic snacks are up there as well. In-store bakeries up there also. What else have we got there? We've got hand dishwashing liquid, which was an overall top performer. We've got regular crackers. We've got liquid stock. Block chocolate is very high on this as well, as far as performance is concerned. So this is something that absolutely needs to be considered. This is what shoppers are asking for. Yes, give me good prices, but I want you to help me to identify what is good value for money in the category, i.e. what am I getting for that money? Andrew, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, and we're seeing a slight difference in this over in New Zealand, and that is, well, we'll get into that next, but I think the important thing to note here is that value for money is not restricted to how much something costs. I'll just let that thought linger for a second. It's not restricted to how much the price ticket is saying that it costs. There are other ways to demonstrate value for money, and that is actually probably more of a thing, even so in New Zealand, than it maybe is in Australia, based on some of the things we have seen that I've spoken about in the State of the Nation over the last couple of weeks. But that's that. Okay. I'll leave that thought.
Well, let us continue with some of the differing perspectives and what else is going on over where you are.
So, and if the big thing here I want to touch on here is the importance and the satisfaction of offers. So the actual importance of offers has increased more so than the importance of reassuring people that the prices are fair on an everyday basis. So whether you can consider that shelf price, whether you consider that EDLP, kind of doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's more about just, does the shopper feel like they're getting a fair go every time they go in? Contrasting that with the importance of the deal. The deal has gotten more important. But the real problem, or the real issue here, is that historically it has been one banner in New Zealand that has really dominated the conversation around offers. And that, of course, is Pak'nSave. However, over the course of the past year, the satisfaction of offers in Pak'nSave has not moved one bit. And the other two have caught up significantly. In fact, you can pretty much throw a blanket over the three of them right now, the three majors, New World, Pak'nSave, and Woolworths, in regards to how satisfied shoppers are in regards to the offers that are being given to them on an everyday basis. Now, there are going to be some differences from category to category on that. But generally speaking, it's no longer simply just let's promote the guts of it out in Pak'nSave and do this, that, or the other in New World and Woolworths. It's now much more of a more well-rounded approach that needs to be considered when you're looking at these things from a promotional program point of view in New Zealand. And it does not mean that they have to be the same level of discount either, because, again, value for money means different things depending on what category we're talking about. In some, the deep discount is needed. In others, it's not. It's actually about pack size architecture, or it's about calling out the why it's better for you to spend more on this particular item because it's a better quality or it's a more premium product than the other thing, which is a couple of feet away on the shelf. That's really what we're talking about here. It's important. It's very much important to keep focusing on offers, but it's no longer let's just try and be all things to all people and being a bit more targeted.
Yeah. And we got your top three on importance of offers. So this is where and again, the statement, I'm going to come back on the statement but it's down the bottom here. I often find good special offers in the category on products I want to buy. So this is your top three on importance, which then you got mints there at number 2, chocolate bars number 3 of offers. And okay, I've called out the statement there. This is where I want to go with that. And there's some really important words in that statement which echo what you've said there. I often find, first of all, I can find them. Second of all, the notion that they're good special offers. And thirdly, we have this idea that they're on products that I want to buy. Okay, it's the statement is there are more offers everywhere. Yes, that's important. That is not what we're asking people. That is not what shoppers are responding to. They have to be able to find them, which in the context of what we know is going on out there is a very important factor. And it has to be on the products that I want to buy. So the inference there is that more and more offers is not necessarily going to satisfy this need. And indeed, if we look at differing performance and what Leah and what Amanda have been talking about in their full year results, fewer, bigger, bolder was the pathway on one side, and more offers was more the pathway on the other. And we've seen kind of how that's panned out. So this is really critical. It's what am I getting? The offer is important, but it isn't the case that as a shopper I'm going I just want to see offers everywhere. Like stick them on every shelf, every product, every category. That's what I'm after. It's got to be more targeted and more surgical than that.
And if you take the example in New Zealand of, say, the Pak'nSave Isle of Value, everyone who's from New Zealand will be aware of what I'm talking about when I say that. It's the same thing that you were talking about there, David. It's not about how many deals that are in there. It's not about the depth of the deals that are in there. It's about, are those the right deals? Are they the ones that actually are going to make someone do something different?
Yeah.
There is very little point in putting, screeds and screeds of offers in the Pak'nSave Isle of Value, which are in categories with low purchase frequency.
Yeah.
Or things that are completely and utterly unlikely to be consumed or used any faster, just because you happen to be buying more of it. That sort of action takes people out of commission for ages. It doesn't mean they return anytime soon, and it means subsequent promotional activity is not going to hit the mark. So it's about being smarter, or not necessarily deeper or harder on these types of activations.
And there's a real kicker coming on that, which which underscores what you've just said and the importance of being more surgical, which we'll come to in about 5 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer. Just before we do, I was going to touch on the fact that I raised on the Australian slide this importance, this notion of identifying value and what's good value for money. So you might be asking, well, what is that? What's the other part of that that people feel they want to get that they need in order to demonstrate the value for money? So that's where we're seeing measures like authenticity. So a product is made or manufactured or has some sort of authenticity story around it that I can understand that. And that's why I'm paying for this. That's why maybe I'm paying 50 cents, maybe I'm paying $1 more for it. We also have healthy choices. So that's still there, still significant, still relevant. It's still the sort of thing that people will potentially be willing to trade up for. We know this because it's becoming more important that you have healthy choices and that I can find healthy choices in the category. So we've got that. We've got authenticity, healthy choices, innovation, as in new ideas, continues to increase in importance. And the other one, which I'm sort of foreshadowing a little bit here, is about enjoyment of shop. These are the four measures that we've seen increase the most. They're not the most important, but they've seen the biggest increase over the last 12, 24 months. So it's an enjoyable experience when I go in and shop for chocolate bars, let's say in this instance, or mincemeat. That is increasing importance. Also, hold on to that thought because there needs to be more consideration around how does the industry collaborate to deliver that, particularly for a certain cohort. Okay, I'm just letting someone else in here. By the way, you're being sledged. I don't know if you saw this, but Paul says, "Go LA Dodgers." But I shouldn't have read that. Someone else said RIP Blue Jays, which maybe that's a bit. I don't know. They'll come back. They'll come back, I'm sure.
Yeah, that cuts to the quick. That one does. Anyway,
moving on.
But moving on, but just quickly before we move on, yes, the same sort of things we're seeing in New Zealand. Probably not as many of the things that David mentioned in regards to getting more important, but a couple of the key ones are the authenticity of the brand. So the heritage of the story behind the brand, that's has been significantly more important now than it was. Innovation, absolutely, and enjoyment of shop, again, absolutely. The one thing you probably might be surprised for us to not have mentioned is sustainability. Now, sustainability is really important in some categories and not very in some others, and is very clear now, not just in our source of data, but other sources of data across the board, really, that people want sustainability, but it's the price of playing the game now. It's not something that people are prepared to pay more for anymore. It's becoming quite clear that is the case. David looks like he's frozen, so I will carry on until he comes back in. So in Australia, this is what we are seeing as well in regards to this whole idea around what do you actually need to be communicating to the shopper before they've even gotten into the store. So this is a view into main reason I go shopping is to buy the category. So obviously not every single category is the reason why you are doing what you're doing. And my other one is frozen. Oh, I dropped off as well. I'm back. Can people hear me? Okay, good. All right. So, excellent. So, it looks like David has dropped off. So, I will just quickly share my screen to carry on because I've got the same thing up that he had. So, let's just show this and we'll carry on. Can people see my screen? Can people see my screen? I can't see the chat. Yep. So everyone can see my screen? Okay, good. Excellent. All right. So I will carry on. So what I was talking about before is this whole idea about the main reason that people will actually go shopping is a certain specific set of categories. Not every single category is going to be high on that list, and then there are others which are going to be significantly more higher on that list. That aside, so when I'm talking about that, is like, it's eggs, it's bread, it's pantry staples, it's meat, it's fresh produce. Those are the key reasons why people are going to a store. That aside, what we have seen in Australia in particular over the course of the last year or so is a significant increase in the reasons. Basically, there being more people going, this is a specific reason why I'm going shopping today. What this really translates to is this idea that you need to be talking about certain categories a lot more before you actually get people coming into the store. So this pre-store engagement is a massive, massive deal now in Australia. And you can see there that, this is being driven largely by Aldi over the course of the last couple of years, 3 years. But it's not like the other banners are not necessarily joining in the fun. So IGA, Woolies and Coles are also doing the same thing. So this whole idea is really driven by the fact that if you actually need to be talking about your category pre-store because it is a driver of traffic into store, then you need to be taking every opportunity you can to speak about those categories for that particular reason. So this is an interesting sort of idea when you start thinking about it, and that is going to be driven by a lot of things. So the immediate thing that you sort of come to mind is that, well, what actually am I going to be talking about when I'm talking to people pre-store? And that the first thing that the mind goes to is things like, if you're in Australia, the catalogue, or sometimes there's some advertising out the stores that can do that sort of thing as well. But essentially, it's about the pre-store communications that you're making generally do come through some kind of catalogue or some kind of digital mailer or however you're talking about it. So
hey, Andrew, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. You're back now, David.
I am. I don't know what's going on there, but you seem to be doing a smashing job. So I thought I'd just keep stum and listen. But I'm here.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll just keep going. But you can start talking now about how this whole idea about how pre-store promos are playing your own store choice. I'll throw up the slide for you.
You're sharing your screen, right?
I'm going to throw up the slide right now. So here you go. Right.
Fantastic. So my screen has frozen. Clearly, you could hear me. Now we just got somebody saying you're both gone. Oh no. Okay. Anyway, so I think Andrew's given you a good recount of what's gone on there pre-store. More deliberate behaviour, more determined around a specific category on average than we've ever seen before. Now, with that, and so therefore we're talking about pre-store communication. Pre-store is a very, very increasingly critical arena where you want to be triggering that notion to go to a particular retailer or to engage with a particular category. So we see this one rising significantly as well, and it's the extent to which a pre-store promotion that I see is going to encourage me into a specific store. So I'm going to be picking Coles or Woolies specifically off the back of something that I have seen pre-store. Just build out the next bit so we can see what the top ones are. Double A. There we go.
There you go. Oh, hang on. No, that's the pre-store one.
Oh, don't jump the gun. So we're going the other way now.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, there it is. There you go.
There it is. So baby food, liquid breakfast right at the top here, coffee as well. And the kind of important thing about this is that this means there's good work being done. There's a lot of good work being done pre-store. And this is part of that collaborative conversation. Is if you're a supplier, you're going in talking to your customer, your Coles or your Woolies customer. It's important to know, look, we're investing pre-store. Something is working here. We're driving feet into store. We're driving traffic into store. This is all positive. We want to be doing this in the right categories. We want to be doing this where this measure is scoring highest. For example, in baby food. For example, in liquid brekkie. We want to be doing it in specific places, such as catalogue. Catalogue never went away, but catalogue is just as important now as a trigger of free store behaviour as it was 3 years ago. And we're also seeing increase in significance to traditional media as well, TV, newspaper, and so on. Online increasing a little bit, but perhaps not as much as we might have. You might consider if you think about, I guess, how digital a world we live in. But catalogue certainly is a key one. So the takeout here is, yes, shoppers want to be communicated to pre-store. They want that support because they're being more deliberate at the average category level. I'm less likely now, when that was a negative number, a lot of categories were just things that I was going to go and get while I was on that trip. But now it's this idea that the average category is more likely to be the number one thing driving that mission and sending me into a particular store. Hopefully you got all that.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure we got all that.
Okay, good. Near catastrophe at my end, but we've maybe pulled it out of the fire.
All right, well, we'll carry on. So the whole thing about this, though, is that we were also looking at a similar sort of thing in New Zealand as well. There is a difference here, though, and this is where you start getting the exceptions. And this actually is something which didn't necessarily come through from other sources of data that I've been comparing with over the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks. In New Zealand, pre-store promos are also playing a significantly higher role in people deciding where they're going to go. So again, it's those types of mechanics that David was talking about. It's TV, it's newspaper, it's magazine, it's online, it's mailer, it's all these sort of things. If a shopper can actually see something pre-store that makes them go, yep, that's actually really interesting to me, and I'm going to choose to go there today or tomorrow as a result of that deal or that offer or that competition or whatever that type of communication actually is prompting, then I'm going to do that. And there are specific categories where that has actually, has always been strong, and the fresh arena is certainly one of those. But the third highest category now is actually an impulsive category in terms of promotions and encourage shopping, and that's chocolate bars. Chocolate bars, whichever way you look at it in New Zealand, is one of the most impulsive categories. So that does not mean people don't plan to buy the category. They do. But there's just nowhere near as many people who are planning to buy the category as there are people who, in other categories. We're talking, 70% of people planning versus maybe only 50% of people planning in chocolate bars. But this is where it comes to the really interesting point around New Zealand about how it's different. In Australia, it's much more about a category conversation pre-store. In New Zealand, it's a category conversation which is driven by brand. And the reason behind that is the massive increase in the importance of authenticity, of brand story, of brand heritage in New Zealand. So when you start looking at it through that kind of lens, you can understand, okay, chocolate bars, everyone has a favorite chocolate bar or two or three. It's not a case of, I have no idea what chocolate bar is the one that's going to trigger me when I walk into a store and buy. Everyone either likes a Moro or a Crunchy or a Milky Way or a Whittaker's or whatever it might be. That brand association is so strong in New Zealand at the moment that it needs to be a significant part of the pre-store conversation.
Interesting. Yeah, that's something of a nuance. What we've got is planning around a specific brand dipping slightly here, and planning around a repertoire of brands is up. Okay, so there's something slightly different going on there. Here we go. So I'm reading. We'll just see what that one. Very weird. This is very confusing. I've got half of my setup is working on a big screen here, and the rest of it I'm talking to my phone down here.
No, just keep going, David. You're good. I'll answer that question that's come through in the chat. So, are you in the fresh beef is driving people's retailer choice? Yeah, fresh beef. The people are seeing pre-store on fresh beef are driving people's retailer choice. It is the highest category out of all the categories that we track in New Zealand. That if people see something compelling, and compelling does not mean cheap. Compelling means value for money. It means the right kind of messaging that people value in fresh beef is going to drive people's choice of store.
Mm-hmm. There was another one coming from Sherry as well. And I think she was referring to the main reason I go shopping. I'm not quite sure when it came in, but do you think that thing that she's referring to is because shoppers are moving back to smaller shops having gone to larger shops during COVID. Smaller shops are more mission-based as opposed to one larger shop. I give you my perspective on that from what we're seeing. Wouldn't necessarily say that is a movement or a shift. I think it's aligned with this idea that, as we said, price is still important. Being able to identify good value for money is important, and the psychology around the individual category has changed. So regardless of whether it's a big or a small shop, I'm just investing more time and I'm more deliberate pre-store around where I'm going to go for the average category. So I don't think it's necessarily so much about the size of shop. It's just about an inherent way that we're now very deliberate. Maybe there's more shopping around going on. There's more, maybe I'm going to go to this store for these categories and this store for these categories, maybe even a third store as well, potentially. So there's a time trade-off here. There's a sense that I have to get this right. And I've seen something pre-store that I like the look of, and that is going to send me to Coles or to Woolies for that category. And that is why, by the way, that what we're coming on to in a minute is so crucial and so fundamental, and is not yet really being responded to, and there's a big opportunity. So I'll come back to that in a moment. Any other thoughts on that, Andrew, or should we move on?
No more thoughts now. We'll move on. But there is definitely one more thing that we need to talk about before we get on to that final piece that we want to talk about, and that is essentially this idea in New Zealand that shoppers want to be loyal. They want to be loyal to a specific banner. They want to be loyal to a specific store. They want to have this trust that that store is going to take care of their needs. And there are certain categories where this is strongest, and and that is what this is here. And those three categories that are the highest on retailer as well loyalty, which is the metric I'm talking about. So fresh beef is in there again. So again, if a shopper is looking for things in fresh beef, from both a price point of view, a fairness point of view, but also a quality point of view, and all the other things that matter to them, to make them go, I want to keep coming back here because I have confidence that the store is going to do what I need to do for me in order to be satisfied with my experience. Baby formula is another one. Lamb is another one. But that's just the top three. There's, at least another 25, 30 categories, which are, in the top, 15, 20% or so, which can drive this too. So it's not, you need to have this idea that now it's not necessarily about the price is going to be the driver of me going to a store and keeping coming back. It's about, give me the trust, give me the confidence that you are going to continue to do a good job in this category for me, for the things that matter to me in this category.
Yes, quite. And listen, just before we move on, a question about do you have a pet food example? It's from Julie. I think she's in New Zealand. I'm sure the answer is yes. And the opportunity there, if you have that question and you're wondering what is going on with my category, what are the dynamics, then that is a great opportunity for you to reach out to one of us for following up this webinar session and ask that question. Because as I said at the top, beautiful thing about this is we're not just picking out ones and twos of categories. We are covering in Australia 190 categories. In New Zealand, Andrew, you're currently on
121
categories, all key retailers. So we'd be talking to you for days on end if we went into the full depth across the piece and across the categories on really how granular you can get with your story for each category and each retailer. But give us a call, follow up, and we can see what we can share with you, and we can see what else is interesting that's going on in that domain. Next. So I think this just rounds this all off. Clearly, more decisions being made pre-store, more use and reference to pre-store promotions, two slightly different things going on. In Australia, it means more exploration than when we get into store. When Australian shoppers are in store, there's more exploration going on and a willingness to explore. If you think about that for a minute, it makes a lot of sense. If I was more deliberate and I chose retailer X for this category, if the choice that I want isn't immediately obvious to me, then I'm going to invest more time to find an alternative, or to find the thing that I wanted in the first place, because that's where I went very deliberately for that category. Again, something that you must bear in mind when I get onto this final piece. So more exploration, more switching going on in Australia. I'm less likely to walk away with nothing which has its pros and its cons. If we think about more switching, it means we have to put more emphasis on how the shelf is laid out, the means in which we're merchandising, what messages are coming to the fore, and so on and so on, which we've touched on a lot of that already. Andrew, your point about efficiencies is a little bit different, right?
It is, yes, because in New Zealand, we also do have more willingness to switch. But the willingness to switch in New Zealand is much, much less about willingness to switch on brand and much more willingness to switch on things within a specific brand. There's also significantly higher levels of planning on a specific brand in New Zealand than we see in Australia, and it's growing in New Zealand. There is less willingness to browse in New Zealand than there was. Much more desire to grab and go or to make the shopper quick and efficient. So while we have similar kind of scenario happening pre-store in both countries, with the difference in New Zealand that the brand is more prominent as far as pre-store communications is concerned in New Zealand. In New Zealand, it's all about, I know exactly what I want in large numbers, in large numbers of cases. I know exactly what I want. So don't make it hard for me to find it. Don't make it hard for me to actually to finish the job and buy the thing I'm looking for.
So and you said less browsing tendency.
Less browsing tendency, yes.
Okay, interesting. Yes, we're seeing more over here. Shoppers here are more willing to browse. Obviously, they don't want to browse because I've made it difficult for them. That's not really the gig, but they are willing to invest some time. Now, tell me, I'm going to try and launch this poll because it's the last one we're going to. I don't know if anybody can see anything from my screen or not, but it seems to have launched.
Oh, no, yeah, it's launched.
Okay, all right, terrific. So on the next slide, this is the question that I'm asking here, and there's a very important reason for it. And it's, you want to flick onto the next slide because the answer is not on it, so you're all good, mate.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, there we go. Right. So this is Australia, by the way. This is Australia numbers.
Yes. So in Australia, how big is the satisfaction gap? Now, what I will tell you that the satisfaction gap works in this way. The over 40s are much more satisfied with shelf layout than the under 40s. Okay. Now, coming up on screen now, I'll show you the results. I put this out on, I don't know if I'll see the results because of these issues, but yeah, okay. So this is replicated in the poll that I did on LinkedIn. The vast majority thought it was 22%. Okay, fair enough. It is big, but it isn't quite as big as that. The gap is actually 13%. The significance of this is that this trend of over 40s outscoring under 40s is what we saw open up. You see where that gap between the two lines really opens up? Probably about 18 months ago. We saw that at the total satisfaction level, and the two lines inverted. The under 40s had always been more satisfied by and large with what they were seeing, getting, and having the experience of in the grocery channel. That has changed. The gap has narrowed since back then a little bit, but still it is a significant turn of events that younger shoppers, and we're not talking about kids here, we're talking about under 40s, are still less satisfied overall. This is the measure where the gap is the greatest. And it's this idea of shelf layout. When I've found the category, can I easily find the thing that I'm looking for within that range? And I tell you, this is a very, very, very big gap. Similar in New Zealand from what you're saying, Andrew.
Yeah, similar, like slightly narrower gap, but it's the same thing. It's the same trend we're seeing.
Yeah. So if we think about everything that's gone before this, we're seeing improving overall satisfaction, but we have under 40s less satisfied than over 40s. We're seeing more deliberate and more choiceful behavior pre-store, and then with some nuances and some differences, there's something in-store that needs to be responded to. Yeah, we saw the slight difference on the browsing and the intentionality in store, but the fact remains that this is a huge gap. The shelf layout in the average category in Australia and New Zealand is not working in the same way for under 40s as it is for over 40s. People are asking me, probably asking you, Andrew, why is that? What's going on? We can sort of hypothesize. We can certainly look at how other channels, other industries like fashion, like electronics, like cosmetics are changing and are very, very different in terms of the way that we interact with them, and that's going to affect under 40s. If we cut this by, say, under 25s, we're going to see that's even a more extreme gap than this. So there's a really big opportunity to do something different here. Just comment on that, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I posit this, and actually, Julia, that's a really good question. Is this to do with pre-store digital behavior? Yeah, I actually think it is, because I think I have my phone here. It must be charging in the other room. But pretty much everybody under the age of 30 was born with a phone in their hand. In some way,
you don't have it next to you because you're
exactly. It's charging in the next room. Probably because I just got notifications as well, bothering me while we're doing this. But the younger generations, those people in those age groups, they are used to a seamless, quick shopping experience or browsing experience when they're using a digital device, and they don't get that in a grocery store, because I've been in the game 30 years. The way that stores are laid out has pretty much not changed, apart from some things on the margins. It pretty much hasn't changed in the last 30 years since I've been involved in FMCG. Things are basically in the same place where they were, and the way of laying things out hasn't really evolved a massive amount either. So if a youngster, and when I say a youngster, I'm talking about anyone under the age of 40, so obviously excludes myself, they walk into a grocery store, if they can't find what they're looking for in 2 seconds flat, it's too hard.
Yeah.
So that's really, is it to do with pre-store digital behavior? I think so. I really do think it is to do with how people of that age group consume and search and engage with everything these days.
And so building on that, I mean, something I wanted to point out, something of an irony, therefore, then in Australia, is the fact that shoppers of all ages are signalling they are more willing to browse. But this is where I come back to, they don't want to browse because it's a pain in the neck. And they, I'm browsing because I can't work this shelf out. They're willing to browse to go back to those things we mentioned earlier, i.e. the health messages, the authenticity story, the enjoyment of the experience. All of those things will encourage me to browse, and I will engage with the category more, and I would potentially be willing to consider higher price points. One other thing I wanted to say here, which is really, really important, when we cut, and this is a fantastic cut that Lou and my team came up with, when we cut what is over delivering on satisfaction for under and over 40s versus what is under delivering, have a guess in the chat. What do you think are the biggest other dissatisfiers apart from layout for under 40s? Let's see. Tell me, do you think it's things like price, offers, fixed low price? I'm going to wait for somebody to stick it in the chat. I know we're coming up on the hour, but I can see the numbers are still good, so hopefully people are getting some good value. Is it things like price, or is it things like the things we've mentioned, like being able to identify good value, like authenticity, like health?
We seem to have a lot of guesses around range, segmentation.
So the important thing to take from all this is that their key dissatisfiers versus their expectations are not around price and offers and promotions. So it's not the case that if you're under 40, you're categorically impoverished and thinking only about how I can get my hands on the cheapest thing in every category on every occasion. It is statistically the case that what I'm looking for is a clearer identity, a clearer a clearer navigation through to what represents good value for money. And I'm looking for that authenticity story where it's relevant. I'm looking for health. I'm looking for authenticity, as I've mentioned that one, sustainability, innovation. All of these other things come into play. Availability, I know a few people saying availability, sort of in the context of I can't find what I'm looking for. Yeah, but it's not necessarily just that there's too many out of stocks. That's kind of falls in between for both groups, unders and over 40s. Is it the same, Andrew, for your under 40?
It is. Price has got nothing to do with it over here. Nothing to do with it whatsoever. It is all about the in-store experience, in-store execution. Layout obviously is a big part of it, but the availability angle, the range angle, it's all there. And I suppose the one thing I would say about all that is that, and again, it's Lou who brought this up, right? When I was doing some work with Woolworths a couple of weeks ago, that there are about 100,000 people across Australia and New Zealand who actually understand that an out of stock is an out of stock. Every other single person who does a grocery shop does not understand that if the product is not there, does that actually mean it's out of stock, or does it mean it's not ranged, or does it mean that the layout is just not good enough for people to be able to shop it effectively? So there's a difference between it being an actual out of stock and the shopper just thinking that it's out of stock.
Yeah. We look at it, of course, because we're in the industry, we look at it in terms of percentage out of stock, right? I love Steve O'Connor's comment. Thank you, Steve. Fluffy under 40s.
Yeah. Well.
So, okay, how about this? In the chat, how big an opportunity do you see, based on what we're seeing now, what you're seeing here, how big an opportunity do you see it is to improve satisfaction with layout for under 40s? Not much, big, massive, gigantic. Let's stick a couple of words in the chat, because I just think that we've got to grasp the enormity of this. Under 40s, we're not talking about children, we're talking about under 40s, 13% gap. It's very similar in New Zealand in satisfaction with how they find the navigation of the shelf, the ability to find what it is they're looking for specifically. And at the same time, big opportunity. At the same time, we're talking about a cohort that has probably been more deliberate in their choice going into that store, and also is over indexes on the importance they associate with things like authenticity and health, and these differentiating factors beyond price and promos. I know we're coming up on time. You want to go to unless you haven't got any other comments on that, Andrew, do you want to go to the next one, and we'll just sort of bottom this out with the sort of so what to some extent?
Yeah.
And this is another, the real beauty about what we're talking about here is it's total store, total all retailers. And as a result of that, what we can do, as you can see on the screen in front of you, is a representation of where every single category sits on this layout question. And we've called our State of the Nation this year, meet them at their bus stop. And this is a critical place to end, because if you're going in and talking to your customer, you know this as well as I, but you want to be talking about something specific to them, not a generic story. And this is how you do that, because when we just focus in on layout, where we see a big gap and see a big opportunity from what people are saying, massive, especially if price are relevant, thank you, Lindsay, then you want to know, well, what am I actually going after? Let's say Coles and Woolies in this case. Who has the challenge? Who has the bigger issue? And who needs the bigger support? And if we keep going, so that's layout performance beats in Woolworths versus Coles, or beats in Coles versus Woolworths. If you wanted to support Coles on something like that, like layout, then a key category to focus on is going to be your box chocolate. So that's one. Obviously, there are more, but I'm just giving an example. Meanwhile, where Woolies is under threat and needs to drive harder on this particular measure with under 40s, you'd be looking at energy drinks. That's one to call out. We've got this for every single category. This is critical stuff.
And we have it in New Zealand as well. So it's exactly the same as what David was talking about. So again, if you want to support Woolworths in order to actually to catch up to where they're being behind foodstuffs, both New World and Pack and Save, it's canned vegetables. There's one to look at. And if you're thinking about wanting to help foodstuffs to catch up, toilet tissue is a really good example of that. In toilet tissue, it's not about promoting in toilet tissue. It's about actually talking about things that matter to the shopper, like quality, like premium. They don't care about promotions in this category. I'll be very blunt about that from the get-go.
Yes. So, okay. We are coming up on the hour. I don't know if there's still 200 people on the call. I hope there are, because I've had a few little gremlins here. So apologies for that. Hopefully got through it. Andrew talked manfully about main reason I go shopping. Two things I was going to mention. The first one is, if you would like, and we'll see how many people stick a yes in before I even say what it is, but if you would like top 10 categories in Australia and New Zealand for the gap on layout satisfaction between unders and over 40s, just hit layout. Don't hit layout. That's not a thing. Type layout in the chat now. and we will share that with you. Just going to come back to the notion that it would take us days and days to go through every single category. You guys know that. That's not what we do on Insights from the Isles. But I encourage you, if you want to follow up on any of these things, then reach out to me or to Andrew or to the team. Follow us on LinkedIn, because we put some good stuff out there. And last but not least, from me at least, if you would like to have a Christmas special, so we haven't envisaged a session in an IFTA. Andrew's going to do something different. He can tell you about that in a minute. But if you want to see that, a Christmas special, maybe we'll take a special Christmas glance at things, then put Xmas in the chat now, see how many votes there are, and we'll see what goes on that front. We've got one at least. Andrew, your comment, what is it you got lined up?
Yep, so in the first week of December, we actually have a full webinar for New Zealand devoted to the State of the Nation. So obviously today we just went through a few aspects of it. I'm going to give the full rundown, the full shebang in that session, which from memory, I think is the 3rd of December. But at any rate, if you want to know more about that and to register for that, just hit New Zealand in the comments and we will send you the registration details for that.
100%. Of course, if you are subscribed, if your business subscribes to Shop Intelligence, then drop a note to your Insights manager. And if we haven't presented this either in New Zealand or Australia already, then let's get that in the diary and let's try and do that pre-Christmas if we can. Otherwise, and there's a lot of New Zealand's, a lot of Xmas's coming in to the chat. I just want to say thank you again. Thanks for being with us all year. Huge audience to finish off with. If we don't see you again, either on one of those sessions or in December, then we very definitely look forward to seeing you in 2026. Have a great festive period. Hope you trade well. And Andrew, thank you, mate.
Thanking you, sir.
And well done for the tech bridge. See you, man. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, everybody.